and welcome to this Wednesday, August the 26th edition of the Honest at Sports Show. Joining me is Stacey Babb and Jason Ford. I'm your host, Earl Baston. But folks, we just want to get right to the breaking news out of the U.S. Earlier this afternoon was that the NBA matches have been postponed. Well, two of the matches have been postponed, with the Milwaukee Bucks, the first match, refusing to play their game in protest of the shooting a few days ago in Milwaukee. Obviously, Jason, a big NBA fan, looking at it, the players are trying to make a statement to kind of support the statement in which has been made around the world in sports, is that Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, and it's something that, in 2020, we get to see a lot more of this. These guys have a platform, and for many years, you never saw athletes use the platform. Well, 2020, everybody's using their platform. Now, mind you, even had some players that didn't go to the bubble or didn't go to Orlando to do the playoffs, thinking that it might take away from the conversation of what's going on socially. But a lot of the players, LeBron James, led by LeBron James and many others, are using this platform to remind everybody on a daily basis. But then you still have these incidents. And this one happened in Wisconsin. Obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks was due to play, and they're up 3-1. They're due to play, and then the two remaining games, they both got postponed also. Lakers were due to play tonight also. So it's going to be interesting going forward. The NBA, got to give kudos to the NBA, because they've allowed these players to use their platforms, whether it's speaking up, whether it's putting the stuff on the jerseys or the shoes, or they're allowing these players to use the platforms. And we have never seen this in any other professional league, even around the world. So it's going to be interesting with the NFL coming up very shortly. What's going to happen with that? They're still talking about what are they going to do, even just the national anthem. And I think that means, you look at what the national anthem did about a few years ago. I mean, this is far more important. So it's going to be interesting going forward. We just hope that the right people hear the right messages, because it feels like nobody's listening.
Stacey, for you, NBA, you travel a lot to see professional sports. What do you think of the situation or the stance that these players have taken in this bubble?
Pretty much, to me, it's a great stance, especially what's going on socially in the country. Definitely, because it's no evidence of change anytime soon. So those are the steps that you have to take to demand that change and be effective in taking that step or being a part of the change as well, because professional players still going out to play professional sports while your brother man is being killed in the streets and stuff like that. Definitely is not what the civil rights movement was all about. So it's showing that they're in it together. And pretty much Jackson was stated that the NBA shouldn't have restarted, but they went ahead and restarted. And then it was a few killings after George Floyd. So with this video, again, it's definitely hitting him once again to the seriousness of the matter, especially because that gentleman was walking away and not posing a threat at that moment.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, because I saw a few people online earlier today discussing the amount of shootings that have taken place in Chicago and New York in the last week. But the difference is that I think people are marching because if someone kills someone, they get apprehended, they get charged, they get put before the courts. The problem is that the police in these states are not being charged. They're not being arrested. They're suspended, and then it's drags on, and then it's public pressure that actually gets them before the courts. But it's one of those things where they have to start treating each case as it is. If it's deemed a attempted murder, whether be by the police, whether be by someone else, and it has to be treated that way. And these athletes are actually using their platform to make that stance. And I think that's what's being missed, because everybody keeps talking about the fact that, oh, well, it's all these other killings going on, and rightly so. But when people are apprehended, they're put before the courts, they're charged, they're imprisoned, and that's all I think people are looking for to happen when it involves a police officer. So
but I just think the consistency, because they're not seeing that it's a fair battlefield when it comes to crime. I remember a couple of years ago, a gentleman went into a church and just shut up the church.
mhm.
And the police came and took him, and he even stopped to get him some food before they took him to the station.
Yes.
Now, I mean, if you're going to shut up some people,
Yeah.
whereas this guy just had a conversation and walked away, and this gets shot numerous times in his back.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's crazy when you see these mass murderers that they're trying to take him in.
Yeah.
And I hate to say which color it is, but it's pretty obvious. They're surrounded and they're gonna wait it out and wait till he surrenders, and then we're gonna handcuff him and put a bulletproof vest on him. And the black gentlemen don't have that out. I mean,
Right.
some of these guys would have a bulletproof vest on. Some of them might still be alive. And I hate to say this, but that's the reality that they've been seeing over and over. And how many times you keep hearing, oh well, the cam that's on them was off.
Right. Well, looking at that
The
video,
body cam is off.
yeah, looking at that video, the guy was close enough to use a taser as opposed to using a gun.
Right. And then also when he, it's case in point with the other video that was posted months ago in reference to a white officer trying to apprehend a white suspect, I guess we could call it that. And pretty much the suspect did everything under his power to assault the police officer in Hill 9. And it's going on for a couple of minutes, and the officer was trying his hardest not to use his gun, and he never even used his gun, even to the point where the gentleman went into the patrol vehicle and still didn't use, deadly force on him by no means. He did use his taser. Of course, that was ineffective, but at the end of the day, things need to change, because even with the recent protests in Wisconsin, and that teenager going and killing 2 protesters just the other
Yeah.
night, and he was apprehended alive and everything else, and you got an assault rifle in your hand walking in the street during a protest. And we all know, since protests have broken out in the States, there have been police officers on guard and your state patrol and everything else on guard. So how can one get away with and still be living to
Yes.
pretty much do?
Well, we'll keep an eye on what happens down the road with the NBA. Obviously, there'll be a lot of talks tonight into tomorrow and over the next few days to see what other ways and methods they can pay attention to, trying to help prevent or to break down some of this what is deemed as police brutality and murdering, injuring, or using deadly weapons on a certain sector of the community, as opposed to being balanced in when it comes to addressing everyone. So we'll see how that plays out. I do want to quickly get into the weekend of cricket. We will be joined by Jessica Lewis in a short time, but we do want to be talking about, obviously, over the weekend, Jay and Stacey, we had some local cricket 2020 again on Sunday up at White Hill. Southampton Rangers beat up, I want to say beat up, but defeated Willicott by 7 wickets. Down at Lord's, St. David's beat up St. George's by 6 wickets. Somerset on Saturday up at Somerset beat Bailey's Bay by 46 runs. The under-19 team lost by 3 wickets to Somerset Bridge. And obviously the match at Whitehill, the first division match between Cleveland and Western Stars, was abandoned for some off-the-field issues. But looking at some of the scores again, a good weekend for Taryn Frey, scoring 94, not out. The good thing for on the bright side of the defeat for Bailey's Bay was they only lost 3 wickets. And with that young team trying to not get bowled out, I think that is a step in the right direction. What's your thoughts, Jay?
I mentioned it last week. You know, that should be some of the goals that these teams should be setting. I mean, we looked at a lot of these teams from top to bottom. The tail is long. So a lot of these teams are really relying on the top 3, maybe 4 batsmen, period. And if they get in, well, they need to take care of the bet all the way through. Obviously, we're not known to just hang around, but we have to learn. When you have 20 overs and you don't bat out your 20 overs, you put yourself at a disadvantage. And we've seen that with teams over and over again. So I'm glad that with the young squad they do have, and even the likes of Taryn Frey, I mean, I hate to say this, it's been a while since I've seen Taryn score some runs.
Yeah. In
league.
Well, I think for on his side, the fact that he's trying to skipper these young guys, he's doing a lot of different stuff, especially if you're fielding out fresh, you're expending a lot of energy and effort in making sure that the field is set right, the youngsters are paying attention, and he's opening with 2 young bowlers as well. So
yes,
he's constantly talking with them. And there are times when you're doing that type of stuff, your game kind of takes a back seat at times, but he was able to put together an inning, especially after watching Kamal score 61, Chris Douglas got 38, Jordan De Silva got 31. So you've watched guys already bat on the crease that has this season been a run scoring machine. Yeah.
And once again, the youngster from Warwick back in the runs again.
Yeah. Dominique Sabir, 75 on Saturday. Yeah.
Duck last week, but back into the runs again. So, I mean, it's building well for a lot of these teams, especially the youngsters.
Yeah. Stacey, looking at, we'll go to even looking at Del Rey's performance over the weekend. He, in the first inning, he got 46. The second inning, he got 33. Unfortunately, Sussex went down to Middlesex. But the fact that he's now been averaging 35 runs per inning, for Sussex, although he's getting a bit of runs, it's still a worry, because when you're looking at a batsman, you're looking at someone who's going to constantly be getting knocks of 50 plus. And in that team in the 4-day match, you want to be able to do just that. And I think he's got to learn. He's got to settle down in that 4-day match. It's not the blast, which will start on Friday, which is a 2020. You know, when you score 46 in a 4-day match in 46 bowls, you know, obviously the coach is going to have a few words with you. But looking at it, you think that he's going in the right direction with the numbers?
He's definitely going in the right direction with his numbers, because prior to that, he wasn't even getting his 30, 40. So I guess coming off of that whole quarantine COVID, like, his groove is coming back slowly, hopefully but surely, where it'll be a greater impact for his team. So Sussex could actually have a victory under the belt, being that the league has started back up. So it's definitely making the right moves to improve on what he previously was being able to perform with.
Well, hopefully on Friday he gets amongst the runs if he's in the team. Well, guys, joining us right now is obviously Miss Jessica Lewis from Para Athlete.
Hi.
How are you, Jess?
Hi, good. How are you?
Wonderful. Well, first of all, welcome to the show. Under different circumstances, because if everything was okay, we would be somewhere across the other side of the pond.
Yep, definitely.
Well, let's go back. Let's look back first, because obviously we don't know what's ahead. But we knew a year ago we were in Peru, and the fact that you were lighting up the track, if I could call it that.
Yeah.
Looking back at those performances in Peru during the Parapan Games, a vast improvement from what you've done in 2015. In Canada, in Toronto, how were you feeling going into it? Because you had an immense amount of pressure on you, especially trying to defend that 100-meter title.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going into, 2018, we kind of have an off year. We didn't really have any big competitions that we were gearing towards. So we were just kind of training and competing, just trying to get stronger and faster, because we knew 2019 would be a big year with both the Pan American Games as well as World Championships. So everything that we did was fueled towards being there in 2019, and just knowing how well 2015 went in the 100-meter, we just wanted to make sure that we could kind of replicate that performance, and then also to see if we could have an improvement in my other two races as well, because I was feeling a lot stronger in the longer distances, and so everything we did was geared towards that. Yeah.
Any questions, guys?
How has been, since all lockdown has been lifted with your training regime, have you been able to get back to training for your event?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very fortunate being here that, I have a lot of different venues that I was able to continue training even through the lockdown. So I have a roller, which is kind of like a treadmill or stationary bike idea for my racing chair. So I did a lot of my sessions in the garage or in my bedroom. So I was lucky kind of in that sense. The only thing is that I haven't been able to get into the gym to do a lot of my weight training, but I'm hoping to get back into that starting soon. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Jessica, I don't know if you know, but I've actually named your chair the Pink Hurricane.
Yes.
Do you have a special name for your chair? Because I keep calling it the Pink Hurricane. Do you have a special name for your chair?
I've called it that after I heard that you said that. Yeah, it is the Pink Hurricane.
Tell you, Earl. I tell you what's thick, Earl.
Well, I mentioned that you called it the Pink Hurricane, so.
Yeah.
But yes, I was as the countdown started for the Parapan Games. Obviously, we had to start a new year countdown. One of your competitors in the 100-meter and the 400-meter from from China. She was thinking about retiring, but she's actually is the girl that came second in the 100 in Brazil.
Yeah.
And then won the 200 and won the 400.
400,
Yeah. But looking at, you don't get to see those, especially the two girls from China. You don't get to see them often. But what do they mean to the sport, as strong as they are?
I mean, they kind of give a little bit of motivation, I think, to the other athletes to see, it is possible to be that strong and that fast. So I think it definitely kind of gives you a little bit of a kick in the butt to get training and see, how well you can match up against them. And in Dubai, at World Championships, coming fourth in the 100, behind two of them, and then Sam from Great Britain, just knowing how close I was to them definitely has sparked a little bit more motivation in me as well.
Well, it's funny enough, because the picture they used for that article had you just over her shoulder. Did you see it?
I did, yeah.
I said, well, if we can get that close and have an opportunity to power across her, then more power to you. But now looking ahead, obviously we're starting another countdown to the Parapan Games. But what is your plans to be prepared if these games come off in a year's time?
Yeah, so it has been a little bit difficult, I will admit, to find the motivation right now, just to try and keep going. But I definitely think with the new countdown, it's really put it into perspective. And one of the things I was thinking about the other day is that when you're at this level of competition, you can't really back down on your training. So you have to, even though we don't know what's ahead next year, you still have to put in as much effort as you are if the games are to go ahead. So it's just trying to find, that motivation to continue going and to continue believing in your sport and, the strength that you have, and keep building on top of that.
Well, when you see how things materialize over the course of the lead up, do you feel as if how those guys are training in Canada and you guys kind of do simultaneous training at times, it will actually start rubbing off if you can get back on that track?
I think so. I mean, we were saying this as a group. You can't really go through a whole year of just hardcore training and not get any better. The only thing is that you don't have kind of that confirmation or that knowledge of where you stand with the other competitors, because you haven't really seen them this year. And you just see how they're training and how much stronger they're getting. So you kind of try not to compare yourself in that sense, but also to believe in your own training and follow that process. And next year, hopefully, we'll have some races prior to Tokyo, so we can kind of get a better understanding of where we are and what kind of things we need to work on going forward.
Well, I had a chat with Donna Rayner, and there's some possibilities of some track meets being staged in Bermuda in September, October, and November. If they allow you, do you think you will jump in just to get the feel of being in an environment of racing, even if you have to race by yourself? Is that something that you would look forward to do?
Yeah, sure. That would be awesome. I mean, in my training, I'm starting to do some starts just to kind of keep active that way. And my mom calls out the start, and I'm like, oh, it's so nice to hear on your mark set go, because I really miss that. And we're actually today on Netflix. They just released a movie called Rising Phoenix, which is all about the Paralympic movement. So we've actually just been watching that and just seeing, the footage from past Paralympic Games. I just sit there and I'm like, oh, I missed this adrenaline rush, and I can't wait to get back in a stadium.
I know, I mean, because it was painful for me, but last year on that start for the 100, it was like a 8-minute wait that felt like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
But when you start looking at how you have to control yourself on that start line, how difficult is it to maintain that? Because you start, so many different things run through anyone's mind when you're just sitting there waiting for a start.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in that kind of scenario too, they said, it would just be that this group will be announced and then it'll be us. And then it got moved a little bit more. So you were constantly trying to, relax and then refocus again. But I think I was just enjoying being in that moment. And like I said previously, I did feel like I was going to throw up a little bit in the call room waiting to go in. But I have this sense of calmness that comes over me, I think, when I come into a stadium. And I think when I can see that finish line, I can really visualize, I need to do everything I can to get across that line and hope that I'm in the first place slot.
When you look ahead, or let's look back as well, what stands out in your mind? We'll do the two Olympics first. What will be the standout in those two, and what will be a standout in the two Parapan Games?
So I think for London and Rio, it was just incredible to be a part of such a huge competition with so many different athletes from around the world in so many different sports. A lot of the competitions that we go to are very sport specific. So I think that was the first time that I'd ever really been at something that involved that many people. And then going to the Pan American Games, I knew it would be a little bit smaller scale, but it was all kind of this side of the world. And I wanted to see, if I could rank among the top of them, and just see how I ranked in that kind of sense, where I knew where I ranked in the world. So it was cool to kind of see that division and really see how far I've come in the 10 years that I've been competing.
Yeah. What has Curtis been telling you? Because I know he's kind of a tough cookie. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think he just has been so awesome at saying, we just got to keep moving forward as these games are going to go on, and just talking very positively in that sense. And I think he's really pulled a lot from the success that we had in 2019, and kind of shifts it to, his dad would just be so incredibly proud of the team that we have made, and how we just got to keep fighting as a team, to continue on in his memory. And we always thought that Tokyo would have been the most incredible games for Ken to be a part of as well. And so I think it's just kind of that motivation as well to be there, for Ken, since he can't be there. But yeah.
Everyone knows when it's close to time to say enough is enough. You're nowhere near that at this time, are you?
Yep.
That's good, because there's a lot of people that will look to you to help bring along the para sports. We have the bocce group. Obviously, they're looking for more people, not only in bocce, but other people that have a disability or a different ability, to take up the mantle and try to compete. I know there are plenty of people in Bermuda just need a bit of an encouragement. I think what you're doing is helping them to make themselves a believer, which you are a leader in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, a lot of people don't really, see what they're capable of doing. And I mean, even myself, when I went to the 2008 Beijing Paralympic Games to be a spectator, that was a huge eye opener for me on, what could be possible. And actually, they just said in the movie tonight that at the Olympic Games, all the bodies are kind of similar, whereas at the Paralympic Games, every body type is different. There's something different about every single person. And I think that really showed me that, my short body and long arms can be fast and strong. And it just shows what is possible in the world. And when you put in a lot of hard work and you believe in yourself and you find people to help be your support system, like my family has been for me, that's a huge, huge thing as well, to help you move forward.
Well, one thing's for sure, you have an enormous amount of #1 fans.
Yes, definitely. They're awesome.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, I want to say thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to whenever you can get back on the track and compete again, even if it's just to show Bermuda what it's like to be in an environment such as the one that you compete on the world stage. And then hopefully we get to Tokyo and you're able to display all the talent in which you've been working hard to gain and get to. So we wish you all the best, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Thanks.
All right. Well, guys, obviously we've just finished with Jessica, but she's such an inspiration that I think a lot of people look to her to gain that self-confidence in their ability to do things outside the box.
Yeah, definitely. Because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have the special needs individuals that have other options out there, especially in reference to sports, in reference to networking, seeing the world, traveling, and being accepted, truly accepted for who they are, and representing Bermuda as well and their families.
And Jason, you got your pink hurricane. Got it.
It's good. I just would just tag on to what Stacey said. It's good to the fact that the word hope comes alive, because when people have special needs or different abilities, we're in a society, especially here in Bermuda, is not that accessible. So I know, and I have my injury down in South Florida, down in Miami, where they have the Miami Project. That's almost like, man, it's like almost a big community of accessibility. I mean, whatever way you can think of it, as far as moving around the city. I mean, that sounds something that's so simple, but it's probably one of the hardest things to do here on the island. It's gotten better over the years, but a lot of restaurants, you still can't go in a lot of these restaurants here on the island. So, but to see somebody like Jessica to get onto a world stage, and once again using that platform, it gives everybody hope. So you're not just stuck down, I hate to say this, stuck down Summer Haven. You want to see more folks around the island. And when you see that, you feel that hope, and not only just hope for the able bodies, but also for the folks who have a different ability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we want to wish her all the best, and we look forward to the progress in which she'll make. But now we'll come to the part where we want to join our overseas reporters, and we'll hear from Vernon A. Springer and Anne Marie Burke.
This is Vernon Springer from Vast Sports Media in St. John's, Antigua and Barbuda. And the sporting world, it has been an exciting time, not only in the NBA, but you would know that Bayern Munich would have won the European or the Champions League for the 6th time, and equaling a record with Liverpool, followed by Real Madrid and AC Milan. So all the Bayern Munich fans, the German football fans, congratulations to them. In terms of the sporting aspect, the NBA is heating up. That has been exciting. But when we move closer to home, we realize that the Caribbean Premier League is taking place in Trinidad and Tobago. And for the folks in the OECS, well, the St. Lucia Zooks are performing creditably well. They've gone 3-0. So we say congratulations to Darren Sammy, who's leading a new team, and more or less a new team, a team without not a lot of big names. But the most important thing is that they've been able to turn up and compete. And they have not competed for a long time. So congratulations to the St. Lucia Zooks. The St. Kitts Nevis Patriots, they're off to a disappointing start. I think they seriously will have to revisit their entire batting lineup and figure out in terms of who bats where. Evan Lewis is going to have to be able to step up like a pro and really put his hand up and be able to take this team across the line. The captain, Ryan Amrit, so far he's leading by example, so that's a good sign. But the batting is going to be a worry of concern. What do you do with Kyron Powell? Do you put Kyron Powell to open? Should Kyron Powell be batting number 6? There are going to be a lot of questions that are going to be asked. So it's going to be interesting to see what is going to be taking place in the next round of games, which will be at Queen's Park Oval, which will be played on Tuesday. In terms of the other 4 teams, I was a little disappointed in terms of the Guyana Amazon Warriors approach in their last game against the St. Lucia Zooks. And what we're seeing happening is that on the tracks at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy Stadium, it's not easy to be playing shots. And so when you get in, you have to bat as deep as possible. And I'm finding that a lot of the West Indian batsmen, the Johnson Charles, even Nicholas Puran, is nowhere Nicholas Puran is supposed to get out at the point in time he got out. He got to be as tight as possible and looking to play the ball as straight as possible. I don't think he did a good job in that aspect. Football is beginning, hopefully, to get back on track in St. Kitts and Nevis. We know they're playing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And so in terms of the sporting world, that's what's been happening. This is Vernon Springer from Vast Sports Media for Earl Basden in Bermuda.
Well, early it was an action-packed weekend here in Barbados, starting with engines revving as we had the Hammer Time 20 Motorsport event. It saw 38 drivers facing the starters. It was hosted by the Barbados Motoring Club, Inc. Now, Rally is back in a big way, all in the lead up to Sol Rally Barbados, which was originally scheduled for July, but now be held in October. So it was some much-needed seat time for drivers and some much-needed hype for our supporters. Rally is one of the biggest supported sporting events here on the island. It has the biggest spectatorship, and on Sunday they did not disappoint. The Rally fans were out in their numbers. When the dust has settled, ironically, the winner was Rob Swan of Britain in his Ford Fiesta WRC. Second behind him, second fastest, was Jamaica's Jeffrey Panton in his Ford Fiesta WRC, and he was followed by David Coelho of Trinidad and Tobago, also in a Ford Fiesta WRC. Round out the top 5 were 2 Barbadians in Barry Mears and Roger the Ninja Hill. So rally action is back. The engines were revving, the exhaust was being smelled, and the crowd was hype, hype, hype. We always look forward to Rally in Barbados, and this was just one of those times where everybody was like, yes, we are back. Also, Cricket also took center stage over the weekend as we had two finals. The Barbados Cricket League final was done. That's the local club league. And that final saw Newbury Province winning that one. And there was also the final of the over 50 Masters Cricket T20 competition. So cricket fans also had their fill of sporting action. Internationally, our local jockeys have been doing it in a big way over at Century Mile in Canada. We have none other than Rico Walcott, who is at the top of the jockey standing, some 17 wins clear of his next rival. He had triple wins on Sunday and on Friday to just boost him even further ahead of his competition. So he has been doing really, really, really great. Also doing well was Patrick Husbands, our veteran jockey, top local jockey. He is playing his trade at the Woodbine Racetrack, also in Canada, and he also had some wins over the weekend. So too Antonio Whitehall at Assemble Dome. So our local jockeys are flying the Barbados flag high and really doing well for themselves. And of course, CPL, Hero Caribbean Premier League, all focus on Trinidad and Tobago. For us, all focus on the Barbados Tridents looking to retain that title. And a bit of a struggle so far. They won their first match, lost their last two, and today they are actually playing as well. So we do hope that today when they face the Ghana Amazon Warriors, that that we can get back to winning ways. But I'm not at this point in any way, scared for our Tridents, because last year alone they did not win a single match when they played here in Barbados, and they came back and they stormed back to win the title. So we're not going to throw up our arms yet. There's a lot of cricket left to be played, and I do hope the Tridents can pull through as they did last year. So that's basically it here from Barbados. It was really not a quiet weekend. Sports is very much in full swing. A number of the federations, however, that would have had athletes competing at the Olympic Games, they would have obviously concluded their local competitions. So like badminton and tennis and those other sports have now, completed their 2020 season, but some others are still in full swing. And so we're still getting sporting action day in, day out. So good to hear from you guys again. And I wish you tons of blessings from Barbados.
Well, guys, that was the Caribbean report from Vernon A. Springer and Anne Marie Burke. We do want to wish Anne very well. She's just gone back to work. She's been out for a few weeks with a bad knee. I think she had an operation, so hopefully she will be able to bounce around to some of those events in the very near future. But I wanna get to a big story over the weekend, actually over the last few days, that Lionel Messi has put in a transfer request from Barcelona, with Barcelona getting a new coach and all. But it's interesting, the three clubs in which have come to the forefront of possibly him going. Two clubs in England and obviously PSG, but the two clubs in England, Jay, is one your club, and the other one is across the street.
My neighbor, yeah. Yeah, well, and that basically comes down to money. Those are the two major clubs that could probably they probably lose some money as far as his fee, but they can make a lot of that money back off the field, obviously the sponsorship. Lionel Messi, wherever he goes, he's got that price tag that it's gonna, not too many clubs are gonna be able to afford it. I think I talked with you off air probably last week about this. Is this the end of the Barcelona dynasty that we once knew over the last 10 years? Another player that's going under the radar who's asked not to be basically asked not to come back. And that's Suarez.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of Suarez too. So it won't be the Barcelona that we've known and love to see the style. Maybe it might be a different style. But what a run they had over the last 10, 15 years. What a run they had. I mean, Lionel Messi leading the line. I mean, I think he's still probably got about 3 really good seasons left. He's still banging in 50 goals a season. I mean, who doesn't want that?
Stacey, let me ask you this question because it's kind of interesting. In Spain, they probably have maybe 5 teams that really play. When I say top football, week in and week out, and probably let's say 12 teams that you can say on their day they probably win, but 9 times out of 10, somebody like Messi can rule a game. As opposed to in England, you probably have in the Premier League, you probably have 15 teams that will be hard-nosed and give those other 5 teams that one shot. Do you think a person of his ability will be able to stand up for that long period of time in the English game?
Absolutely. Messi is one of those players that you never could count out. And it's about time more or less he asked to leave Barcelona. He's been there since he was 14 years old. So that loyalty there. And as we all know, and the greats more or less have extensive years of loyalty at certain clubs, it becomes that point where it's close to retirement age, where it's time to go find a different club to play for, a different scenery. Pretty much to set up your so-called retirement years from playing football itself and turn yourself into a franchise more so. MS is one of those players that he needs to turn himself into a franchise. So his basically his name lives on forever, besides just on the field, Barcelona and Adidas.
I'll pose the same question to you, Jay, because you know how tough the English game could be, and some managers have to manage the players' playing time because it's so rigorous.
Let's look at it here. Look at the player who's just leaving Man City, who's probably go down as one of Man City's legends, David Silva.
Mm-hmm.
He's very small, very similar style, but I think Messi is even stronger than him. So he was able to adapt. I mean, it comes. I hate to say this, but it comes down to styles. And if he goes to City, obviously he's going to rejoin a coach that loved him, and he loved. It's a love connection there. So he knows how to get the best out of Messi. Messi knows how to, what is going to be asked from him. And players like Messi, see, when you get a top player like that, sometimes you say, okay, well, how is he going to fit in? How's everybody going to fit around him? Okay, when you get to a certain level, like when LeBron James goes to another team, let's see how this is going to fit in. No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
LeBron James, and then let's try to fit some pieces around him. So what's going to probably happen, and you're going to see this even with Chelsea making a lot of these moves this week. They'll go, sign 3-4 players already? Mm-hmm. What's going to happen is that we talked about the youngster a couple of weeks ago, Foden. The youngster Foden and a couple of these youngsters that Man City have. Wow, that's going to be a wrap.
Good night.
Yeah, and I hate to tell you, but that's.
I'm glad you mentioned Chelsea, because do you think the owner could possibly have a chat with Messi and influence him in that way?
I think if this happened a week ago, I would have said yes. He spent some money this week.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting. I mean, like I said, it's not like Messi wanted to stay. He wanted to stay. He's been telling once upon a time, Messi didn't talk at all.
Right.
So when he started to talk and nobody was listening, when he was starting to ask, what's the direction of the club? Why we're not spending money? Why you getting rid of our top players? Where are we going? Who are we buying? When that type of player is asking those questions and he ain't getting no answers?
Well, the biggest thing, he could have seen it. They were always in court. The club was always, or the president was always in court. I mean, the other, he actually spent time in court too. So.
Well, I think all of them spend time in all of them. Well, especially for my player. Well. Shout out to Harry Maguire.
Yeah. He's still your captain.
I know he's getting to England squad, but no,
they removed him from the England squad.
Right.
Yeah. It'll only be a distraction. He's back training with United. He actually trained today with United. and a statement came out from United that he will still be the skipper for this year, barring any other foreseen things. And actually, he won his appeal to have a retrial.
Yes.
So, you know, for him, trying to clear his name will be a big thing, and a monkey off his back of sorts. So hopefully that all works out. Looking back at Sunday, I was on the waters in St. George for the Comet Class club race, and I had to smile because it was a lot of talk off the water. Unfortunately, Stevie's regular crew for this year was unable to make it, and he had to call in one of his little horses.
My boy! here's a good horse.
Oh yeah, here's a good horse. Yeah, yeah.
He's
well, Steve had to have a little talk first.
a little talk.
Well, it probably was a very long talk, but a little talk. So, you know, just seeing those two back in the boat together, because when I was sailing, they were sailing together, and it was very hard to watch them while you're racing against them, because 9 times out of 10 they were so far ahead, and it was like deja vu again. But I'm able to watch it this time and just see how they work together and the timing of tacking the boat. You know, talking with Steve, I think last night he called me, talking about some of the pictures that he saw, and he said, you know, look at the form, look at, you know, where he's up before me, he's out the boat, pulling the boat down, and so forth. And those are the type of things. If you have someone in the boat, especially in a Comet where there's two person, if they're doing that, you have less things to worry about. And I think that's where the enjoyment for both of them on Sunday came. And you know, somebody like you know, Wesley, you know, he loves to sail. He loves it.
I tell you, you know, I've had conversations with Papa. No, but when he actually talks about sailing, and you hear the passion in his voice, and like he loves the setup. He loves every part of it. It's not like to say he just loves getting the boat. He loves setting up the boat. He likes talking about the race. He knows all these different points, and he's in his element. He's in his element. Now, if you go off that topic, now we might have a different conversation. But and that conversation, when it comes to sailing, I mean, he's a brilliant mind, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the reasons why Stevie's probably been so successful with him, because, you know, he takes it all in, you know, and he's not scared. He ain't scared of nothing.
Not at all. Stacy, earlier Sunday morning was the Bermuda Bicycle Association's National Road Race Championships down at Southside. Looking at how the day panned out, you had Tyler Smith and Rosanna Hoy winning the open male and female race, and then Nick Narroway and Liana Medeiros winning the junior races. But you saw a lot of team tactics in the day. I happened to be in the middle of the course, so I got to see them going up the causeway and coming back, and I could tell the difference in the time gaps, whether it was opening or closing and so forth. And I watched in anticipation of something special happening. And when I saw Tyler Smith go off at the front with I always forget the guy's name, but those two went off, and obviously Caden Hopkins is Tyler's teammate, and Dominique Mayo was the other guy's teammate. They're not going to close the gap on their teammate and bring Connor White back into the race, who was with those three stayed together. But when you've ridden in groups before, just listening to the tactics, how much talking goes on during the race to ensure that everybody stays focused on what the game plan is?
Definitely is the pre-race talks and stuff like that during the race. Of course, you can't talk too loudly about your tactics due to the fact that, you know, other teams are right next to you, elbow to elbow and stuff like that. It's definitely a conversation of all the riders in reference to whether or not somebody's doing something foolish within the group. But they definitely set out certain points within the race prior to taking on that race, and even in a training session of what moves they want to make and who they're trying to isolate from the rest of the other person's team to basically take advantage of that and make sure that their rider that has been selected to hopefully win that race on that day comes out on top. So although it was Tyler winning that race, it was definitely a win for Winner's Edge.
Definitely. Well, come next week, Friday, Jay, the Bermuda Football Association's football season will kick off, not the league, but the Charity Cup. Interesting matchup. But looking at some of the transfers that came out a few weeks ago, who would you consider favorites, obviously, for the league season?
Wow, that's a tricky question there because North Village lost some players, gained a few. Robin Hood lost some players, gained a few. KC lost some players. I'm probably have to groom a few. That's a little bit different. Southampton Rangers picked up a good bit of players. Chemistry up there is always. I don't know, Earl. You got me. You stumped me there. I mean, I for something like this, you gotta beat the champions. I don't know. Gotta beat the champions.
Well, one thing is for sure: if you after 3 games, if you don't have a point, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, even Dennytown, but Dennytown lost quite a bit of players too, and surprisingly, but they're producing a lot of youngsters around there. So when I looked at some of the players that are up for the awards, we're talking about BFA, but the BFA have the awards this week, actually, this week Saturday, and you see the likes of Zende Ferbert being nominated a Defender of the Year. When you still have those quality players, getting awards or being nominated for awards, and they're still in your team, then you always got to have a chance. Obviously, with Treddy Gibbons, if Treddy stays on the field and the back line that Town has, they're always going to be in it. I think they lost a couple of the strikers, but once again, Dovar and who knows what Kwame going to do. I'll tell you one Ian Coke
going to Crossroads.
That's my sleeper. As much as my mate, he knows that we go battle back and forth, but they have picked. He could be dangerous. Him and the striker Donovan. Can you imagine if Coke got? And last year he was player coach, so he had a lot of things going on around that Boulevard. Can you imagine if he got fit and him and Donovan Thompson lead that line?
Stacey, you have a what I would say a bird's eye view of some of these teams. Who would you say would be kind of favorites prior to the season starting?
Prior to the season starting, it's definitely going to be an interesting season with the amount of transfers that have occurred. But of course, your favorites with Robin Hood, with North Village. Definitely one sleeper favorite might be Colts coming up through.
Sorry, Ray.
Come on, Jay. Come on. The season hasn't started.
Sorry, Ray.
But
That's going to be a surprise, and you're going to be a surprise.
right. Possibility of a surprise. And of course, at any time, PAC didn't have so good of a season last year, so they're still trying to, gain back the momentum that they had once before. But a lot of these teams do have enough to have 2 teams, so it's going to be interesting the personnel that the coaches choose on that day and which players pretty much exclude themselves in training sessions, in games, from that starting lineup, from that bench. So looking at some of the preseason games as well, one of my favorites right about now would have to be Robin Hood, to be honest.
Question for you guys. Well, question for you, Stacey. Think you mentioned Derek Colts, and I'll be serious now. I'll be serious about the situation.
Why are you laughing there?
That's what I'm saying. No, but over the last couple of years, probably want to say about 3 years, one of the biggest problems was actually that a crop of youngsters that were in and out of the island for schooling and things of that nature. Do they have enough of those youngsters back on the island to be to stay in the team? Because that's when they will lose, other than leaving or coming back, the chemistry or whatever. The average coach was always inconsistent with these youngsters. What's going to be the difference this year?
That's a strong possibility as well, but due to COVID, some of them might be staying on island a little bit longer than expected, possibly to make that impact they need at the beginning of the season, to put them in a standing where towards the mid to end of the season, because we know how preseason starts. You start with all these players, but what happened? Christmas break, after Christmas break, how many players do you actually have? And then when injuries kick in and stuff like that. Also, like Devonshire, well, Cougars also picked up a few players here and there. So depending on everyone's fitness, to be honest, that's one of the main factors right about now. Being that, season starts basically next month, which is next week. Those teams that are not at that fitness level are gonna have somehow work to do at the beginning of the games and don't have that cohesion right now where they have an idea of what the starting lineup's gonna be. It's gonna be interesting when that first game of the season pretty much starts.
One of the things that they have to be careful of, and you talked about it, Jay, with asking the question about Devonshire Colts. They a lot of their players last season were doubling up, playing First Division and also playing PDL. They have the numbers this year, but I don't think they'll be doubling up as much because the commitment that it takes in the Premier League is a little bit tougher than playing in the First Division, especially like in the First Division. Devonshire Colts were playing very well against the caliber of players and the teams they were meeting up against. The problem is that they have to be on their game each week playing in the Premier Division, regardless of who they're playing. So I think that luxury of having a guy play on a Sunday, play probably a Wednesday or Thursday in the PDL, and then turn around and play again on the weekend, the coaching staff will probably look a little harder at making sure that the players are fresh for the weekend as opposed to that weekday match, and giving other players an opportunity. So it's going to be a very interesting this year. And as you said, the target is got to be the defending champions, although they will be pressured by the likes of Robin Hood.
You said Robin Hood. You said Robin Hood. And on one thing, they did pick up some players because remember last year they had problems. Goalkeeper and center half.
The one plus for them is they've actually picked up a goalkeeper.
Yes,
and,
they did.
That will be a big plus for them. Now, how long he stays in Bermuda on the field, that's to be desired. But the fact that now they'll have the ability to have Antoine Russell playing up front as opposed to playing center half, because they've got the two national team center halves in their team, so there's no need for Antoine to play down there. So obviously now he becomes another threat to opposing teams whenever he plays up front, because with someone of that caliber, as long as he's playing in your third, he's always going to be a threat. If he's out of your third, then basically you just have to worry about a handful of guys kind of thing. But he's also, the presence that he brings and the ability that he has on and off the ball actually makes him a threat in your third, no matter where he is.
But yeah,
talk about the Premier. What do you feel about the First Division? Who do you think is going to have a chance to win the First Division this year, Earl?
Well, that's going to be very interesting because with the transfers that St. David's and Hamilton Parish got.
Yes.
You had the late coming on of Flanagan's last season, and Vasco kind of fell off near the end. So it's going to be interesting how things pan out there. And to be honest, it all depends on what type of start a team like Social Club gets. Because if things are going right, no, listen to me now. If things are going right for them,
See the story.
they're two different teams. If things start to go bad, they fall by the wayside. But they actually, if things go right for them, because I remember 2 seasons ago they were running pretty well, 3rd place for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But then Christmas came.
I can name about 5 seasons like that, Earl, with Social Club. That's my point.
Right, but I'm saying you can't. I mean, there's gonna come a time things change.
If they're still in the runners by Valentine's Day, then I'll give them a chance. But
Right.
they don't last to Valentine's. There's no love around. I hate to say it. Where's the love?
So far, they look like they have some decent personnel, but also what comes down to overall Premier and First Division is the mental fitness, the mental toughness and focus of these individual players to make that cohesion as a team. And once they're able to make that environment of that camaraderie and family environment on the field and off the field, that makes a team strong. So if Social Club can do that with the personnel they have picked up, the season might look well after, Christmas break and stuff.
All right. Well, guys,
One more thing, Aaron, one more thing. Actually, a couple things before we go. One more thing, because I'm going on my black and white. I cannot say enough about my black and white. I am a bit worried and see what's going to happen without the service of Sequoia Robinson, who's been our captain for many years, and then obviously a new coach. Obviously, I'm going to be looking to follow Sequoia to see what he's going to do with his new side, but also where that leaves PAC. And another one of our young strikers also left. So to see what our front lines can actually look like this year. I'm trying to get to one of the training sessions, but that's going to be very interesting just on that note. Yeah, and the coach. And before we go, I just want to mention 2 things. Last week I mentioned the retirement of MS Dhoni from India, from international cricket. Hate to say we had another Indian player looking to retire, Suresh Raina, and what he brought to the 2020 format of the game. I really started watching him, obviously, in the 2020 format, and he's definitely going to be a miss as a stylish batsman. And then saying congratulations to James Anderson from England, 600 Test wickets. I mean, that's no easy feat. And now he's yeah, and
everybody else that's gone across 600 has been a spinner.
Yeah, everybody else has been a spinner, and he's took about another 30, 40 matches than everybody else. But saying that for number one, as a pacer, like you said, as a pacer to even last this long, it's unbelievable. So he's sitting in 4th place, obviously to get Maritharan, who's got 800. Don't see that coming, but he's talking about going to 700. So, and Chris Broad, Stuart Broad is not that far behind. So I believe he's just behind Courtney Walsh. I believe he's just going over 500. Courtney Walsh is like 519. So to see these 2 English bowlers stand the test of time, and let's think about it, Earl, about a month ago.
They were writing them off.
Where they both of them going to be in the England squad.
Yeah.
And then the next 5 matches, they've captured most of all the wickets.
I wonder if all those people that were talking and writing and reporting that they need to look elsewhere are eating crow right now because the whole changed their tune.
Well, I tell you, I looked at some stats, and we've been following Jofra Archer for a while now. Doesn't look good what he's done in the last year and a half. Look at his stats in the last year and a half.
Well, actually, the last 2 tests he's played in, he hasn't grabbed many wickets, but he's actually tied them down.
Tied them down.
Yeah. And I think that benefits the other bowler, the strike bowler, because if you can't get one guy away, you take chances on the other guy. But the other 2 guys are more deadly than the one that's tying you down.
But keep in mind, Ben Stokes is not playing.
Right.
So when he comes back in the side, one of those seamers will be gone.
Yeah.
If Anderson and Broad is still bowling the way they are, then it's me Wokes or Archer that's going to be sacrificed for Ben Stokes.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah. All right. Well, guys, enjoy the rest of your night. We'll talk again next week. Folks, enjoy the night.